Well, hello again everybody, welcome back, and part 3 of security pins, and this time we're going to look at the pinning pins, as a lot of people have asked. So the majority of the time what we see is two types of pinning pin. We've got the multi-locks, and then individuals mainly see them in challenge locks. But I've got a few bits and pieces here to try and explain how they work. So we start off with, these are multi-lock pins. So this will be the key pin, and excuse me, just trying to work around the camera here isn't the easiest. So we have a pinning pin, as we can see. So we've got an inner pin and an outer pin, and if we insert that in there, as you can see, comes out the bottom and leaves a hole in the top. When you try and pick it, you can pick up past the top of the outer pin. It depends on the length of these, because these are all match the same as key pins would be to the bitting of the key. And then above that we have the driver pin, which is actually internally spring loaded, if we can see that. So that will actually exert pressure on the inner key pin, and the main spring here will exert pressure on the outer pins, and so these would actually sit in the lock like so, and that's how it would be seated. As you can see, we have different variations. Here's a slightly different key pin, that one's a spool, standards and planes. The other thing we have to deal with some of these as well, if I can get, well, you can see I'm having a job getting this out, is, I don't know if we can actually see this. If we can see, there's a groove on the bottom of the inner pin for the driver, and there is actually a groove. I have tried to get this on camera before, I don't know if we can see it, so let's drop that down. Don't know if we can get enough light in here. Let's try. All the lights off. If we can get it to focus, and it's a bit hard to see on the small screen, but there is a groove inside there. So once this goes in, it's effectively like a serration on both parts, so they actually try to lock together just like so, just to make life even more difficult for us. So just trying to explain, almost forgot, we also have the sort of T-pins we have in challenge locks, which aren't spring loaded, but they are more like a very long T-pin with a outer around it, but I'll show you more about those in detail in a minute. So we have a new contraption which I'm struggling to get to work, but these are multi-lock pins. So I'm starting this position because it's hard to get this set up into this position. Quite often you'll see when picking multi-locks is that everybody says about picking outer pins then inner pins, but quite often you will need to pick an outer pin very last. When you get that very deep full set, what can happen is we can be in this sort of position, whereas if you're picking the inner pin, it won't actually pick the outer pin, and it's not until you go to pick the outer pin again, if we can get this to work, that you can actually get that to, right, let's cheat a little bit there. So that happens when you get those very deep false sets on multi-locks. That's normally the sort of position you'll be in, is you'll have one, maybe even two key pins or driver pins sat like so, and the inner pins might not pick them, which is why you end up picking an outer pin to finish off the picking. So that hopefully describes that. What I'm going to have to do is lift this camera up a little bit. And back to the trusty old wooden lock. So what we have here is the setup you'll find in a multi-lock. So we've got the outer driver pin here and spring above it. We then have the inner pin with a spring, and then we have the outer and inner key pins. So once this goes in, let's see if we can get this to work properly. This isn't the most reliable of setups. So as you can see, the driver key pin, inner pin, will be sitting inside this, inside the outer key pin. So when we start trying to pick, we pick the outer pins and we'll get a very small full set because this is solid all the way up on the proper one. And then we're in the position where, as you can see, spring loaded onto the key pin, inner key pin, and then when we try and pick that, that is when we can finally get it open. As you can see, this doesn't work quite so well in wood as it does in the actual lock, but it gives us an idea. I'll put that back in the wrong way round. So you can see how the multi-locks work and why we get a small full set to start with. Then when you're picking the, if this drops down, that's when you can get your deep full set like I showed you in the other one. And then when you pick that, if I can get enough on there, it actually opens the lock. So if we get this out of here a second, now pinning pins as of the type we find in challenge locks. If I just swap this over, so effectively we've got our driver pin, outer sleeve, and then we've got the elongated T-pin. And let's pick this one with a standard pin in the bottom. Yet again, these can all be serrated, so we start picking, and you'll notice we're pushing the spring up with the inner pin, and then when we get to pick it, we then end up in this situation. So full set, same sort of thing, and we end up having to carry on going to pick the inner pin on that. Then the other way this can work is as a driver pin, and we'll start picking, and let's see if we can get this to actually work. I might have to spin that round, I think. Hang on. So we can actually get to the way they're designed to work. If I can get this to play ball, is something along these sort of lines. Get this to come down. So effectively gives us another shear line. If we overpick it, we can actually get to here. Sorry, we can see that. So if you happen to overpick it, you can catch the top of the T-pin. This will drop down, and yet again it's just another interesting way to make the lock feel different and cause us more problems when picking. So I hope that all made sense and it gave you a better understanding of pinning pins and how they work. I'm sure somebody will be able to come up with a far better contraption than this one for the pinning pins, but it's getting to the limit of my capabilities with wood. So anyway, I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.